Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by describing, a specific kind of Sunday afternoon. You know the one I'm talking about?
Oh, I think I do.
You're on the couch, right? Maybe you've got a half-read self-help book on the table, a gym membership you haven't used in weeks, and there's just this heavy feeling.
Yeah.
You want to change the career, the fitness, all of it, but it feels like you're hitting an invisible wall. You're just spinning your wheels.
It's that universal feeling of being stuck. And it's so frustrating because it doesn't even feel logical. You know what you should do, but there's this gap between wanting to do it and actually doing it.
Exactly. And that's where we usually go looking for a new strategy, a new life hack. But the book we're diving into today says the problem isn't your strategy, it's your operating system.
Right.
We are looking at You Are a Badass, How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life by Jen Sincero.
Which is just a juggernaut of a book. It was #1 for years. But what's really interesting for us is the author, Jen Sincero. She isn't your typical, polished guru.
No, not at all. And that's what I love about her story. Before all this, she was in rock bands. She even wrote a book called Don't Sleep with Your Drummer.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. She was living in a converted garage, scraping by into her 40s. So she brings this really gritty, no-nonsense kind of punk rock vibe to self-help.
She's admitted she thought the whole genre was cheesy and lame until her own life got so unbearable, really, that she had to try it.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, to strip away the cheesy stuff and figure out the key psychological shift she says you have to make to go from just wanting a better life to actually deciding to have one.
And that's a huge distinction in the book, that wanting versus deciding. But we have to start at the beginning. Why are we stuck in the first place?
Right. She brings up this idea of the subconscious blueprint. Now, to me, that sounds a little, a bit like therapy speak. What is she actually talking about here?
Well, it connects to some classic ideas, but she makes it very actionable. The core idea is basically, my subconscious made me do it. We think our conscious mind is driving the bus, I'm choosing to be successful today. But she argues that's just the tip of the iceberg. The subconscious is what's really steering.
So the subconscious is the driver, but who wrote the directions? Because I'm driving into a ditch, I want to fire the navigator.
That's the whole problem. You didn't write them. You were programmed as a kid when you're just a sponge, absorbing everything. Your parents' fears, your culture's rules about money or risk.
So if you grew up hearing things like, money is the root of all evil, or rich people are greedy,
it gets etched right into your blueprint. So then, fast forward 20 years, you consciously want to start a business, but your internal software has this line of command that says, success equals danger.
And the subconscious will always win. It controls your gut feelings, your anxiety.
Exactly. It'll self-sabotage to keep you safe, according to that old blueprint. It will literally give you a panic attack the second you try to step out of line.
There's a quote early on that really sets the tone. It's pretty aggressive, but it sticks with you. She says, it's not your fault that you're fucked up. It's your fault if you stay fucked up.
It is aggressive, but I think it's necessary. It moves you from blame into agency. You can't blame your parents for the code they installed, but now that you know it's there, you're the only one who can rewrite it.
Okay, so we've got this buggy software. But when we try to change, we run into the villain of the story. She calls it the big snooze.
I love that name. It's her term for the ego. The big snooze is basically the defense mechanism that wants to keep everything the same. Its whole job is to keep you asleep, comfortable, and safe.
Is it just fear, though? Because a lot of the time it sounds like logic, like you shouldn't do that, the economy is bad.
But that's why it's so tricky. It's a master negotiator. It doesn't scream, run away. It whispers, are you sure you're qualified? Or maybe you should wait until next year. It sounds like a rational adult.
It reminds me of homeostasis in biology, how the body always fights to stay at the same temperature. The mind fights to stay at the same level of success, even if that level is miserable, just because it's familiar.
That's a perfect analogy. Familiar feels safe. Sincero quotes Lao Tzu here. She says, if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're in the future. Peace is in the present.
And the big snooze hates the present.
It hates the present because the present is where you can actually take action and change things.
So we're basically victims of the rules we live by. But the rules are just. They're illusions we've agreed to. Which brings us to its main weapon, fear. Most of us see fear as a stop sign, right?
Absolutely. A pit in your stomach means don't do it.
But she flips that completely.
Totally flips it. She says fear is a green light. If you aren't terrified, you probably aren't growing. It's a sign that you're pushing up against the edge of that old blueprint.
That sounds great on a poster, but in the moment when your heart is pounding, it's really hard to think, oh, good, I'm growing.
It is. But she has this amazing line. The day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. It's about that tipping point where staying the same hurts more than the fear of changing.
And she tells a story about a literal cave that kind of illustrates this.
Yeah, not just a metaphor. She was exploring a real cave, got plunged into total darkness, and had a massive panic attack, just paralyzed with fear.
Which we've all felt, that metaphorical paralysis.
Right, and you can't fight the dark, you have to switch on a light. She realized she had to turn off the light of her focus on the fear and focus everything on the decision to get out. What you focus on expands.
So you're just reframing the adrenaline.
Yeah.
The racing heart isn't, I'm in danger, it's, I'm about to do something big.
Exactly. Physiologically, fear and excitement are almost identical. It's the story you tell yourself about it that matters.
So for someone listening who isn't in a cave, but is maybe terrified of asking for a raise, she has a technique. View fear from your rearview mirror.
It's a great reality check. You just think about something that used to terrify you. Your first day of school, learning to drive, whatever it was, at the time it felt life or death.
I remember being absolutely petrified to ask someone to prom. Just world-ending terror.
Yeah.
And now it's just hilarious.
That's the rearview mirror. You look back at all the monsters you've already defeated and realize they were mostly smoke. You use that evidence. I've survived 100% of my bad days. Most of what we fear is just what she calls future tripping.
Borrowing trouble from a future that hasn't happened.
And paying very high interest on it.
Okay, so we're rewriting the code, reframing fear. Now we get to the part I found the most challenging, the almighty decision.
This is the absolute pivot point of the whole book, and it's where most people get tripped up.
Because we use the word decision so loosely, like I decided to go to the gym, but then it rains, so...
So you don't. Right. She says that's not a decision, that's a wish. She points out the word comes from Latin, decider, which literally means to cut off.
To cut off, wow.
Like an amputation, you cut off the option of failure, you cut off any possibility of retreat, you burn the boats.
That is intense. But it makes sense. If there's no plan B, you have to make plan A work.
She quotes someone, I think W.H. Murray, who said, "The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. The universe, or your own brain, doesn't take you seriously until you're all in."
She uses that classic Henry Ford story, right?
The V8 engine, yes. He told his engineers he wanted an engine with 8 cylinders in one block. They told him it was impossible, literally against the laws of physics.
And a normal person would say, okay, the experts say no, let's make a V6.
But Ford just said, produce it anyway. They worked for a year, nothing. They came back and said it couldn't be done. He just said, go right back to work. I want it and I'll have it.
I mean, that's borderline delusional, isn't it?
It's a fine line, but that's the almighty decision. He didn't know how, he just knew he would. He eliminated the negotiation process, and eventually they figured it out.
Eliminating the negotiation process. I think that's the real key for daily life. It saves so much mental energy.
A huge amount. If you decide you're a runner, you don't wake up every morning and debate whether you feel like running. The negotiation is over. You just run.
Which brings us to the next step. Execution. Or, as Sincero puts it, doing versus spewing.
I think we all felt a little attacked by that chapter.
Oh, definitely. We're all professional spewers. Talking about our plans, complaining about the obstacles.
Reading 5 different books about how to do the thing instead of just doing the thing.
But it feels like work. It feels like progress.
That's the trap. It's a safety mechanism. Sincero's very blunt. She says, the only failure is quitting. Everything else is just gathering information. But you have to gather it by doing, not just by studying.
And the root of all that spewing is usually perfectionism, which she calls fear in fancy shoes.
It's one of my favorite lines. It's not about high standards. It's a defense mechanism. If I never launch it, no one can criticize it. Her whole thing is action over perfection. Just make a mess. A messy start is better than a perfect plan that never leaves your notebook.
Okay, now we have to talk about the source energy in the room. The book gets pretty, well, woo-woo in places.
Yeah.
The universe. vibrations. How do we deal with that if we're maybe a little skeptical?
It's a fair question. And look, you can take value here even if you're allergic to the word manifesting. You can just look at it through a psychological lens. She's talking about the law of attraction, sure, but you can also call it the reticular activating system in your brain.
That's the filter, right? You buy a red car and then suddenly you see red cars everywhere.
Exactly. The cars were always there, you just weren't filtering for them. When she says the universe is totally freaking out about how awesome you are, the mechanic behind that is alignment. If your brain is set to a frequency of, I'm broke, this is hard, it will scan for evidence to prove you right.
So it's basically weaponized confirmation bias for your own good.
100%. So when she talks about gratitude, it's not just about being polite. It's a tool to retrain your focus. She says to act as if. Be grateful for the thing you want before you even have it.
Is that just fake it till you make it?
It's more like believe it till you see it. It's psychological priming. If you genuinely believe an opportunity is coming your way, you act with more confidence. You make the call. The belief drives the action, which creates the result.
So it's less about magic and more about confidence calibration. Which brings us to the last big pillar, self-love.
And we should be clear, this isn't just vanity or Instagram posts.
Right, not just bubble baths. Although she does recommend bubble baths.
She does, but the point is it's about having your own back. She talks about the validation trap and how seeking approval from others is the biggest killer of dreams. There's that great line, what other people think about you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them.
That is so hard to internalize, though. We're wired to want that approval.
We are. It's an old survival instinct. But today, if your self-worth depends on other people's opinions, you're just handing over all your power. You have to be your own source of validation.
And she does have that very specific bubble bath advice, something like give your body hot sex, luxurious baths, and massages.
She does. But the intent is strategic. It's signaling. When you treat yourself like you're valuable, your subconscious starts to believe it. If you treat yourself like garbage, you're signaling that you aren't worth the effort. You have to love your way to a better life.
Okay, so let's synthesize this. The whole framework starts with realizing we're running on old code, the subconscious blueprint, and we have to stop letting the big snooze run the show.
Right. Then we reframe fear as a compass pointing toward growth.
Then we make the almighty decision. We cut off the exits, stop analyzing, and just start doing.
Even if it's messy, and we fuel the whole thing with gratitude and this radical self-love, acting like success is already a done deal.
It's really about identity, isn't it? The title isn't do badass things. It's you are a badass.
That is the core shift. It's something you uncover, not something you acquire. It's already in there. As she says, there's nothing as unstoppable as a freight train full of fuck yeah.
I love that line. A freight train full of fuck yeah. It's just such a powerful image.
It's about momentum. Once you align your beliefs and actions, you become that train. You just stop asking for permission.
Before we wrap, there's one last idea from the book I want to leave everyone with. It's the deathbed perspective.
The ultimate reframing tool.
Yeah, it sounds morbid, but it's really liberating. She just zooms way out and reminds us we're on a rock spinning through space for a cosmic blink of an eye.
And when you look at it that way, worrying about what your neighbor thinks of your lawn seems
Utterly ridiculous.
absurd. We spend our time worrying about unwanted facial hair and slow internet. The real question is, what will you regret not doing?
It clarifies the real risk. We think the risk is trying and failing.
But the real risk is staying safe. The risk is spending your whole life tight in the bud and never knowing who you could have become. That's the only real failure.
So that's the challenge for today. Find one place you're settling, one place you're listening to the big snooze, and make a decision. A real one.
Rewrite the blueprint. Unleash the inner badass.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.